Good morning, geometry. Welcome back. This time we're talking about our section C2. We're looking to find area and circumference of circles. When we talk about area, we're talking about the space filled up on the inside, just like when we talk about area of triangles or area of squares. Our area and perimeter unit isn't until the next unit, but we need to talk about area and perimeter of circles specifically because our next section, we're going to talk about arc lengths and areas of sectors. And so we need to be able to talk about area of the whole thing because we're going to break it into pieces. So we've talked about arc measures already, but we haven't talked about the actual length, the distance around the circumference. So there's a couple formulas we need to know for this. For area, you've probably heard this is a very famous formula. Area is pi times the radius squared. Pi times the radius squared. Now what pi is an irrational number. It's also called a transcendental number. You've probably heard it expressed as it's about 3.14. So let's write that down. Pi is approximately 3.14, but it's more accurately 3.14159265358979, etc. And it keeps on going on forever, doesn't ever repeat, and doesn't ever terminate. But what pi is, why it's interesting, why we need to know it, is it's the ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter. It's how many times longer the distance around is than the distance across. And so we can use that ratio to help us find out different measures on the circle. So for this first one, we want to find the area of a circle with radius 9 inches. So the distance from the center to the edge is 9 in terms of pi and rounded to the nearest hundredth. So in terms of pi, that means we're going to leave pi in our answer. So if the area is pi times the radius squared and our radius is 9, when we simplify this, 9 squared is 81 and pi gets to stay as part of the expression. So 81 pi inches squared. When we talk about units, we're talking about when we measure area, we measure it in squares. And if it's in inches, this is in square inches. And we can either write the word square or we can use the little 2 to represent square. So 81 pi square inches, and it says and rounded to the nearest hundredth. So here we're going to type in 81 pi into our calculator to find out what the decimal approximation is. So 81 pi is our exact answer. And we're going to find out what 81 times pi is. And this calculator is a little bit different than the ones we use in class. So 81 pi, and this is kind of nice. It actually writes our answer in terms of pi, but I can also get the decimal. 254.47. 254.47. Notice that next digit is a 9. That means that 6 is going to round up. This is closer to 47 than it is to 46. That's the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places, square inches. Okay, so we have 2 answers. Our answer in terms of pi and our rounded answer. Now we're asked to find the area of a circle with diameter of 12 inches in terms of pi. Remember, diameter is the distance all the way across. The radius is half the diameter. And our area formula uses radius, not diameter. So we need to know what the radius is first. So radius is going to be the diameter divided by 2, because 2 times the radius is the diameter. So our radius is 6. So our area is pi times 6 squared, pi times the radius squared, which is 36 pi. This is also in inches, so square inches. And we can type that in our calculator, 36 pi, which is about 113.097. So if we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, that's going to round that up to the next digit, so 0.10. So 113.10 square inches. And I use a wavy equal sign to indicate approximately equal to. So 36 pi inches squared, 113.10 inches squared. Next one, find the area of a semicircle with a radius of 5 inches in terms of pi and rounded to the nearest hundredth. So a semicircle is going to be half of a circle. So our area formula, pi times the radius squared, is going to be divided by 2. Whatever our area we come up with, divide that by 2. So that's 25 pi over 2. That doesn't really get any simpler if we're writing our answer in terms of pi. Rounded to the nearest hundredth, 25 pi over 2. It's a 39.27. 39.27. And this was also in inches, so square inches. Square inches. So we have our answer in terms of pi and as a decimal. For circumference, circumference is just a fancy word for perimeter. It's the distance around the outside. And its formula, circumference, is 2 times pi times r. Or if we're doing this using the definition of pi, pi is the ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter. So the circumference can also be represented as the diameter times pi, or pi times the diameter. So to find the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 12 in terms of pi, the circumference is just 12 pi. Diameter times pi. Diameter times pi. And then rounded to the nearest hundredth. And circumference, actually, I'm going to, the circumference is just in inches. It's a straight distance. It's a curved distance, but it's measured linearly, it's not a square unit. It's just in inches. So 12 times pi, 12 times pi is 37.699. So rounding up, that would be 0.70. 37.70 inches. Find the circumference, excuse me. Find the circumference of a circle with diameter 12 inches in terms of pi rounded to the nearest hundredth. Oh wait, this is just the same. See if there's any difference. Circumference, diameter 12, diameter 12. Nope, that's the same problem. Find the circumference of a semicircle. Oh, this one, of a circle, yeah, okay. So that one's same as example 4. Then find the circumference of a semicircle with a radius of 5 inches in terms of pi and rounded to the nearest hundredth. So this one, a semicircle, this is a little bit different than our semicircle with area. It's not just going to be dividing by 2. That is going to be part of it. It is only half of the circle, but it also is going to include the diameter. So here's a radius, that full length is the diameter. And this circumference over 2, that distance around, we're talking about circumference of a semicircle, it's actually just going to be, well, I guess it depends on how you define semicircle. This is kind of an ambiguously worded problem. I'd probably give it to you if you just did the c over 2. But if we're talking about a semicircle where that part is closed, then we would add the diameter to this as well. So if it's radius of 5 inches, circumference on its own, a full circumference, the full distance around, would be 2 times pi times the radius. But if it's only half, dividing by 2, those 2's cancel. It's just going to be 5 pi. And the diameter is 2 of those radii. The diameter is 10. So 5 pi plus 10 inches is leaving it in terms of pi. Then we can add those together in our calculator. 5 pi plus 10, and get our 25.71 inches. Okay. Now, some of the questions we're going to encounter today are going to involve being given the circumference or being given the radius and given the circumference or given the area and then having to find the radius or having to find the diameter. So we're going to do some of those kinds of problems together in class, but this gives you the usage of the formula, putting things in terms of pi and that kind of notation there. Okay, so we'll talk more in class, and I will see you